Friends, it's Everything Mayor, your favorite. I'm telling you, it's your favorite John Mayer podcast. It may not be, but it will be eventually. And today we have a very special episode for you. He will be our second guest, so I don't have to talk to myself, which is great. If you're in the Mayer guitar universe, you probably already know who he is. If you don't, you should. And I haven't told you his name yet on purpose. I'm going to create some suspense here in the reveal. But he's, in my estimation, in my opinion, one of the foremost authorities on everything that John has done with Dead & Company. Certainly some tone secrets, but most importantly, playing. He's a guitar teacher, and he's Gabe Bergman. So you may have heard of him. Gabe, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Tom, for inviting me. Teaching-wise, I never would have thought I would be a teacher and be here right now. But, I think you can learn a lot from John's playing, a lot from his tone approach, and realize that it's not a lot difficult. It's just great songs, great chord progressions, great melodies, and just put it all together and you have a great product.
Great product that's fun to dive into, and that's why we're here today. So to finish your plug, you are a teacher, and are you accepting students,
Yes.
more students at this time?
Yes, I'm always
okay. So if
students.
people are interested, yeah. So find Gabe on Instagram. It's Gabe_Bergman on Instagram, and then on YouTube as well. We got a great channel,
Thank
Gabriel
you.
Bergman. And like I said, and learn your triads, people. Let's go. Learn your triads. Come on.
You'd be surprised. Like, when you hear a song like Shot of the Dark from Sob Rock or Last Train Home, it's all triads. It's all triads on strings 2, 3, 4. That's all it is.
There you go. So,
That's literally all
and
it
for
is.
you guitar players, you should know what we're talking about. If you don't, call Gabe, and he's going to tell you all about it. But if you're not a guitar player, that's okay, because that's generally, this is the name of the show is Everything Mayer. We will obviously talk about guitar playing. But the reason why I brought Gabe on today is because you've had one of the more unique experiences, I think, that's possible in the last decade, we'll say, or maybe ever in John Mayer's career. And I'm going to let you kind of walk us through it, but I have questions along the way. I've done my homework. I watched yours and Justin Jeski's kind of recap of this experience from it was like 4 years ago you guys did that. So I'll still be surprised, but I had to do some research prior to this. But you got to go to and experience one of, I believe there were 2, 2019 tour rehearsal shows for friends and family.
Yes.
And we're here to talk about that today because I have to know how this was. And I want to have you lead the audience through your experience, kind of just, how it came about, and then the day of, and I'll, obviously pepper in some questions as we go.
So if we come back to January 2019, at the NAMM show, at the time and still now, I also do a lot of work with my buddy Mason from Vertex Effects. And at the time, he had built, I think, David Ryan Harris's previous pedal board for 2017 tour. And at the NAMM show, he comes by and says, we start rehearsals in, I think that time was 4 weeks. And the typical, swing by one day. Very typical.
Casual.
Yeah, not knowing what to expect.
Yeah.
And rehearsals start, and then I think like a lot of us in the Mayer fan world, we start seeing a show happen on one Friday. Next thing we know, it's a friends and family show. And if we fast forward to the following week, this is where it gets really crazy. The Friday, with Mason, we were building a pedal board for Eric Zapata from Gary Clark Jr.'s band. So we got to his hotel pretty early, like 9 a.m.-ish. Took 1 hour lunch break, like 12:30 to 1:30-ish, and kept going until, I think, like 5:30, 6:30-ish. Got in my car and went to Henson, which is, I think, to this day is, you can call like John's office space.
Like headquarters. I mean, he keeps a studio
Yeah.
there, right? And they also have huge sound stages,
Yeah.
right? Which is,
And we get there, our names are there, and the vibe is super, super casual. 2 food trucks, grilled cheese, and ice cream.
the detail. So this is you and Mason
Yeah,
now?
this is Mason and I. We go.
Okay, cool.
And there was no really start time. So we get there, we're hanging around, running into people, I park, and I'm like, oh my God, we're in Henson recording. Food trucks, do we get food? And John walks out of the soundstage, and he goes, Gabe, what are you doing here? And I go, oh.
Well, we'll have to go. We got to go backwards on that as to how he would know who you are.
And
so don't go there yet, but we'll come back to that.
And I go, oh, David Ryan Harrison invited us. Should be a good time. And very typical. Not that I see him often, but I'm usually like, okay, you do your thing, and then if possible, we'll talk afterwards. So at that same time, I said, all right, go do your thing. We'll talk after the show. Have fun, whatever. We go in, and then Pino Palladino walks out right behind him. We see essentially the whole band with their families and friends just enjoying a Friday night. And then we get in the soundstage. Huge spot. On one side of the wall is kind of like the kitchen relaxation area. In the middle, maybe towards the end, is a lounge area. And mostly there were John's friends. And then scattered around on, I think, the left side was guitar and bass world. And everybody just hanging out at that point. No definitive 8 p.m. we start, nothing like that. It was, what cannot we take photos of? That was our big question.
Oh, okay.
And so once we got the okay on what we can and can't do, that's when the nerd, I think, and a couple of us started taking photos of the dumbbells, going, because there was no stage. It's everyone's on the same.
Right, you're just level floor, right?
So we go, we take photos of the rig, the dumbbell, the 2-rock, the settings, the drums, the bass rig. You think of it, we're taking photos of it. And then maybe 20-ish minutes, very casual again. It was, when are we starting? We're ready to go. And then I think it was like people walkie-talking, John, ready to go when you are. And then he's like, ready to go? All right, let's do it. Gave a brief intro and played a set top to bottom. And it was incredible. Okay. Me and Mason were dead center in front of John, in front of his speaker cabinets and his guitar rig. So we heard everything in our face, the power of the dumbbell, the power of the 2-rock. And that same day, I guess early in the morning, he debuts I Guess I Just Feel Like releases. So that was the encore.
Oh, cool.
I think of that.
Now, let's guitar nerd out for a second. What guitar did he play the outro solo on for I Guess I Just Feel Like? Was it the Epiphone? Or
it was, I guess,
was it a Strat?
December Strat.
Oh, was it? Oh, that's interesting.
December Strat. And he said it in the past that bend and tap he's sometimes had trouble with, And so that show, the first time... I can
attest to having... Yeah, it's not easy.
The first time he goes and doesn't stick the landing and then plays more. Second time, gets it.
Ah, okay. So he's human, like the rest of us.
Yeah. And
so let me ask you this. So you said he played the set all the way down, and this is billed as kind of a rehearsal. So were there any stops? Was there any discussion amongst the band as far as like parts or like, hey, try this, don't try this, like whatever? Was it just kind of basically a performance?
Performance top to bottom. Maybe the banter you could say was a bit more casual and a bit longer sometimes, but no stopping, no redoing, top to bottom.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So I mean, that's like, because I mean, when I first saw, and before I saw, I mean, I've seen clips obviously before talking to you of this, but when I first saw that it was happening, I'm like, oh, rehearsal. Wow, you're kind of peeking behind the curtain of, you know, how things are done. But it sounds to me more like, and maybe you can tell me if this is the vibe you got. Like there were probably, I mean, obviously there were other rehearsals prior to this, and this was sort of like a dress rehearsal as you would do. You know, you're not going to be out there like telling David Ryan Harris, like, you know, try a different part in the, you know, in this section of this song or whatever. That's all probably done, you know, if it's done at all beforehand.
Yeah, and I think my understanding was essentially Monday through Thursday rehearsal. You know, that's running through songs, getting parts, getting cues, getting also probably, you know, small details, guitar changes, all that stuff. And then Friday was just the performance. I'm not sure they had rehearsal prior to the evening, but Friday was the performance of the week.
Right. Now, you mentioned kind of in the layout of the room, you're looking at the stage. Over to the left was guitar, bass world, and John's guitar tech over there. Was this Renee Martinez era, or was this after with Jeremy?
I think it was Renee still.
Was it? Because I can't remember when that break was.
It was Jeremy, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And for those of you listening who don't know who Renee Martinez is, do you want to tell them?
I mean, you probably know. I mean, legendary guitar tech to Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Well, yeah. I mean, so exactly, Stevie Ray Vaughan's guitar tech. So, and a long time then John Mayer guitar tech, who has since retired as of recording of this, and Jeremy is now his guitar tech. So, but you're saying so it's 2019 probably. Jeremy, I said, I don't remember
Jeremy.
The cut over.
I think it was Jeremy. All I remember from that part was I think it was after the show. Again, it was more at that point. It became more like talking to people, connecting with friends, etc. I think we went to the Guitar World, and John had like 3 road cases just full of guitars. I saw probably the first and last time I ever see his red 594 McCarty PRS with the 3 knobs. Saw the Super Eagle, black one. Wow. I think I saw 2 Super Eagles. Black one, silver 594. Probably that same rack was like the L5, Clapton 335. And
so basically just everything available to him. Because we're still in tour prep phase, you know, just depends on, he wants to have everything there,
and
just in case.
And I mean, the very famous scene from the Paradise Valley sessions, you know, where he opens a drawer for all his pedals. That was there also. Oh, yeah. Just a massive road case, probably like I don't know, 5 feet tall, 6 feet tall. Just, and I think even wild. Isaiah was like. All those racks, John's pedals.
Just pedals at his disposal.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned Isaiah Shaw. I love this band. That version of that band. Aaron Sterling on drums, right?
Aaron Sterling on drums. Pino on bass.
Pino on bass. Isaiah Sharkey guitar, stage right. David Ryan Harris guitar, vocal, stage left. Who was on keyboards? On that?
Jamie Holbrook.
That wasn't Larry Gold. Okay, Golding's was like 17 or something.
Yeah, Larry Golding's 17. Or maybe Jamie Holbrook on keys. Okay. Same vocalists, Tiffany and Carlos. And then Andre, I think his last name is Draper, on percussion.
Oh, Aaron, yeah. Was it Andre or Aaron?
Or maybe Aaron Draper. One of those.
Could be, yeah. Okay.
On percussion.
Yeah. Yeah, that version of that band was
really good.
Ridiculous. So good.
Yeah.
One of my favorites. And that was the non-album tour.
You know? And
yeah, which is another cool thing.
Some may say the best tour.
Arguably. Could be. Yeah. I'm sure I can rank tours in another episode, but I was lucky enough to see that tour. Yes, I was. And if I remember correctly from your previous account of this, did you see a show on that tour, or did you just saw the tour rehearsal?
No, I didn't. I was flying back from seeing my parents in Florida the same day as the Forum show, And as we land at LAX, I look on my phone and I go, oh my God, he's playing Continuum again, top to bottom.
Oh, that's right. That he did the front to back.
Twice.
That's
MSG
right.
and the Forum.
Oh, no, that would have been cool to see.
Imagine.
For sure. But not quite as cool as being at the tour rehearsal, I have to say. So
yeah. I mean,
I mean, that's a pretty unique experience.
I mean, I've been so lucky and grateful to, over the years, just slowly get to know people in that camp, to where, you know, I spoke to Chad at NAMM for like 25 minutes this past January, which was great. Or, you know, I'll say hi to David Ryan Harris before a show if he's in town. And in the broad scheme of things, sometimes I wish I went to more shows, you know, actively going, you know, to really any show that I could. But I sometimes think to myself, I've seen John at a rehearsal. You know, I am pretty set on.
Yeah, it's you've set the bar pretty high for yourself.
Yeah,
when it comes to experiences.
Yeah, you know, like I don't think I'll ever experience again him playing In Your Atmosphere like 6 feet away from me, or Stop This Train, or, you know, Slow Dancing in the Burning Room. You know,
and I think that's why I wanted to talk to you about this, because this is such a special thing in the Mayer universe. Like, this is not something he does before every tour.
No, and
it's not.
I'm looking at the set list.
It's pretty unique.
And ironically, looking back at the set list now on my phone, when the tour started, he took off Gravity from, I think, 1 or 2 shows in Asia, and it quickly came back on, I guess because people want to hear Gravity. And now, again, looking at the set list, I realized my dream was accomplished of a non-Gravity show.
Ah, true. Yeah, because you didn't do it in the rehearsal. So there you go.
Or at least the show that I went to, there was no Gravity.
Yeah.
Which
now, is that just because you've heard it so many times you just don't need it anymore? Is that what it is? Or is it just you'd rather hear something else in its place? Or
I don't like minor pentatonic over major chord progression.
It's the wrong song for you then.
I love it.
So, I mean, but you know what's interesting about that though is, like, I mean, because it has become such a staple, but like I remember, you know, hearing it on the Trio record back in the day, and then, you know, now you've got Slow Dancing and Gravity. Those are like the 11th hour, Bring the House Down, you know, type things. And occasionally there are other places in the set, but, you know, to hear, if you go back and look at set lists back in Continuum-ish era days, you know, those were not the set closers.
No.
It's funny because they weren't, even if you watch, you know, Slow Dancing in a Burning Room on Where the Light Is, I mean, being so used to it now and where they take it, I'm like, okay, when are we going there? And then it doesn't really go there. Same with Gravity. So it's, I mean, it is interesting how songs change over time.
Yeah.
You know, and
I have this app, Re-Listen, which I use for the Grateful Dead, but they have John Mayer. So depends the day, you type in John Mayer and it'll show you the shows that happened on this specific day in the past. Or you can go through a year and let's say, I'm going to go through the Continuum year, you know, and you start out at Hotel Cafe under an alias, performing Continuum top to bottom.
Yep.
And then let's say 4 or 5 months later, he's on tour. And like you mentioned, Gravity would be a 5th or 6th song.
Mid-set, something like that, yeah.
Which resulted also, you know, when he did it at the Garden and the Forum, Continuum, it results in Gravity mid-set.
Yeah. And how did I've watched some bootlegs of those shows. Do you remember how they treated the song? Did they treat it like they would as a closer when it was mid-set, playing like a Continuum straight through? They did.
Big ending solo, and then bring it down, and then continue.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, because sequencing an album is so different than sequencing a set list.
Yeah.
You know, and so you are acutely like aware of that as you watch Continuum get played down in a show where it's like, oh my gosh, like what? I mean, because what's the last song on Continuum is what? I'm gonna find another you. Is that it?
I haven't listened to Continuum in a while.
Whatever the song is, I can tell you this: it's not a set closer.
Yeah,
you know, more than likely, I'm sure they could turn it into one if they wanted to. But that's so. You kind of touched on this earlier with your experience. You were kind enough to share some photos and videos, which I will try to pepper in here at appropriate moments for those of you who are watching and not just listening. But you were positioned directly in front of John, and through some sleuth work of other people who happened to be at the show on YouTube, I noticed. I mean, so there were main speakers hung, but from what I could tell, I mean, if you were that close, they were probably equidistant with you, or you might have even been in front of them. So then you get this experience of like almost nothing but
guitar,
the speaker cabinets that you're in front of, which are incredibly loud from what I understand.
Yeah.
So you got to basically hear almost a soloed track of guitar from John Mayer for an hour or whatever he played.
You know, and you know, talking just through friends over the years, looking back at these performances, even the iPhone footage seems more dry sometimes than it is because it's directly in front of the speaker.
Yeah.
Which
very different experience.
Yeah, which, you know, I don't know if a lot of people, may realize that if you're in this section, you'll only get this, but if you move maybe 5 feet to the right, to the left, you'll get a different scenery, audio-wise.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Which, I mean, so, because most of us, you know, being at a Mayer show in an arena or amphitheater or even, you know, wherever you might be, you're probably not that close. You're probably further away. So you're getting what Chad, who you mentioned before, his front of house engineer and studio engineer, you know, is intending on you hearing. Yeah. But in this, and even if you're down close in an arena, most of the time they have front fill speakers. So you're going to get some John vocal, or, you know, if you're on way over here, you can hear Isaiah's guitar, whatever, you know. But in your case, it sounds like, I mean, you were just, because I did notice that there's a couple of videos online of people who are like in front of David Ryan Harris, which in some ways are actually kind of cooler, because then I'm getting, like, I can hear very clearly what he's playing in a song, which is super cool.
Yeah, and
because we're also focused on what Mayer's playing, but there's brilliant things happening throughout the band.
Exactly. And one thing, and I told Chat this at NAMM, I said, the more and more I listen to sob rock, let's say if we just come to present day for a bit, the more I hear these different guitar parts happening, and you kind of take that idea and apply it to, let's say, Continuum, and you maybe realize that there are 3 or 4 guitar parts that are happening, and then I guess depends how far you want to go in the research, you'll see different parts of them and different ways they're being played over the years, because it depends who's playing it, right? Which is super, super cool. And like you mentioned, depends which side of the stage you're on. In a venue, in an environment like this, you'll hear it much more clear. You know? Hence why, I guess for the audience out there, hence why in-ear monitors are a thing. So the artist can walk around and still hear themselves.
Consistency.
And hear everybody else.
Yeah. Right, and then it doesn't change, you know, largely as they move around. It's a consistent field of audio that each member of the band is getting.
Exactly.
But what that also does is that if you are right dead center in a rehearsal space like that, you're not going to have anything that's giving you John's vocal directly.
No.
You know, so you probably couldn't hear him sing very well, I would imagine.
Oh, man.
I would have, and maybe not well, but maybe it would just be a very different experience. Like if you went to the back of the room.
Yeah, because let's say you're in the back of the room, you hear more PA. Maybe in the front, I was hearing more of his natural voice and a bit of PA.
Which is really, but that's a very, like you said, this is such a cool experience, because it's not, you're not going to get that going to the Kia Forum.
No,
to see him.
You know
what I mean. You're gonna get a Chad's mix, which is phenomenal. It's great, you know, but you're not going to get that personalized like experience of
Yeah.
hearing Mayer.
When I was at Berkeley, he came summer 2017, and that was a songwriting clinic, much like the 2008 version, and similar experience vocally, where I'm assuming he was ready to perform, but in that environment, just him on a piano, it was very, I don't know if raw is the right word, but it was very much not this experience of being in an arena with tons of reverb or more EQ. It was very like, the mic's only purpose was to make his voice louder.
Right.
Without altering his current, his current, like, state.
Sure. Yeah. So you're getting, it's just like you said, just a louder version of what he would sound like if you happen to be just sitting across from him at the end of the piano.
Exactly. He's not trying to broadcast to a Madison Square Garden. It's just make my voice louder so we can hear him.
So I want to go back to I want to go to guitar teacher mode for you for just a second, because I think I've heard you say this before, but I think this is important because there's a lot of people who play guitar who listen to this and watch this channel, and those of you who don't, I think you might find this interesting as well. But I think it's hard to escape guitar playing when you talk about John Mayer, So, but being that you could get this experience of if you had you moved 20 feet to the right, you would have been in front of David Ryan Harris's rig and hearing all the amazing parts that he plays. If you did the same thing and went all the way over to the other side and listened to Isaiah Sharkey, as a fan and a guitar player, I think so often we're like focused on, well, I want to learn the Belief solo. I want to learn the opening riff to Belief. But there, like we kind of touched on, it's like, why not learn those other parts?
Oh my God.
And the whole part, right? I mean, the whole thing, not because I find myself, and it's funny because and again, go follow Gabe on Instagram, subscribe to his YouTube channel, because you get these free little nuggets that make you a better guitar player and better, and arguably if you're not a guitar player, a better consumer of music too, because you start to notice these things. And it's like, well, wait, I want to listen to 4.5 minutes of David Ryan Harris just sitting perfectly in the pocket in the groove on this amazing part. Go learn that.
Yes.
Go pretend to be him. Don't pretend to be John. Pretend to be him.
Hilarious that you bring in the Belief intro, which is like, I love the Belief intro, but I think, and I tell my students this as well, you have to be kind of mentally ready to realize, and it's not a bad thing. And I say to the people I teach, again, it's not, I don't want you to learn it, or I don't want you to go and, practice it. But there comes a time where you kind of have to realize that if you're in a position where, you get the call to tour with John Mayer, and they said, hey, Tom, I want you to come on tour with me, as Guitar 2. If you could play Belief intro, like Where the Light Is Perfectly, cool. But in reality, can you play the chord progression? Great. Can you, on New Light, can you play A minor, D, G, and C with a volume pedal swell like Isaiah does for 4.5 minutes, right? And have the self-control to not, add in fills to make them sound cool. Or, counting, let's say on Shot in the Dark, the outro solo is G, A, D. Identifying, even with either live recording or with the record, that when it comes to that solo section, there's 8 bars where live it would be, I think David Ryan Harris strumming G, A, D. And then after 8 bars, Isaiah comes in with like a which you hear on the record.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And if you can just count that in your head, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 7, 2, 3, 4, 8, 2, 3, 4. That is what will separate you from a lot of people. What happens if you go to a jam and they say, hey, Tom, let's jam Believe. And all you know is dun dun, the opening riff. But you don't know what the chord is beneath it. Or understanding that, the chord progression changes when John comes in. Guitar player, let's say, in this case, in the past, would be like Isaiah Sharkey or like Zane Carney or like Robbie McIntosh, taking the solo in D minor. You can go natural minor to make it more melodic, and then when it goes to G minor, that's when you hear John do minor pentatonic and just rip it. And I just think it takes time to get there, to realize that there are more parts than the intro to Belief or the solo in Slow Dancing, but it's all about the song. It's all about, Can you sit down here and play a song top to bottom? Because you never know. You never know. One day you jam with them or jam with John and he goes, hey, let's play, let's say, Waiting on the World to Change or Last Train Home, top to bottom. What do you do?
Have you ever done it?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because I think it's like a natural progression as a guitar player to you start honing in on these bits and pieces, but you're never actually playing a full song, or you're never playing a part that's not the main featured part on a record that you enjoy. But I think what you're getting at is like helping students to eventually work as a guitar player if that's what they want to do.
I just want, I tell my students, I want them to be able to play songs. Like, yes, we'll look at this, but let's take a look back at this chord progression first. Why does it sound good? Why does it work? Which results in maybe, one, it's super simple. And reality is a song can be taught maybe in 15, 20 minutes. Okay, main part is done. Where else can you play the song? Cool. Identifying, let's say, a song like Shot in the Dark, where the tough part is realizing that the soloing, you would be in D major or D major pentatonic. D minor pentatonic blues will not work. It could sound cool for a split second, but it will not function. It's like the last piece of the puzzle and the remaining puzzle piece you're trying to squeeze in there. It's not going to be a perfect fit. And then you apply that to whether it's Mayer, whether it's like Grateful Dead, whether it's, I don't know, the Eagles, or, I don't know, just learning songs. And you just build your repertoire. And I think ultimately that'll maybe show you, wow, you're a real fan because you know all these songs, you know these parts, I love Imperfectly Lonely, where it goes from F major to F minor and resolves to C major for the solo. It's so good. It's so good. John does like 2-5-1s or 1-6-2-5-1s in Repair, which is genius. I mean, it's also maybe you could say pop writing 101. I don't know, but it's perfect.
I think, for more in depth, picking apart of John Mayer music, make sure you follow Gabe. Right? No, so I mean, dude, I think it's and that's why I enjoy your social media presence, because it's an accessible way to learn these things, and then also be a more in-depth fan of whether it's the Dead music or primarily even John Mayer. And I always find it funny or not funny, but interesting when you do your Sunday Q&As. So often, I can only imagine like the questions we're not seeing are just like 80% gear.
Yeah, a lot of gear questions.
Like, should I get this Klon tribute or this one? And I think you're doing everyone a favor by gently like, yes, but
I
learn the songs, you know?
I
Thank
try
you
to.
for that. I've benefited.
I try to. You know, we're in a world where we have everything at our disposal. We can, you know, I'm assuming through a mutual friend, let's say John Mayer Gear, Alejandro, we can go on his page and see what John used yesterday at a gig at a backyard party, just randomly. And I think maybe both of us have been guilty of it. I know I have. It's like, wow, he uses an Aquapus. Well, I know my delay pedal, Aquapus. He uses a Tube Screamer TS10. Perfect. I want a TS10.
There it is.
You know? But there has to be a point, I wish and I hope, where you sort of realize, okay, in a simple way, I understand the sound. Clean Fender type amp, light overdrive, medium overdrive, a slapback delay, you know, if you want the auto wah, the Qtron. But like you said, that's cool, but it's about the song. It's about,
what are you going to do with it?
Yeah, it's about, you know, just understanding the song. And there is a part of it, you know, where you sort of have to go through that stage of maybe obsession and getting all the same gear to maybe realize that it's not for you, which is totally fine. It's not for you, but now you realized how that tone is made. So if it's obsessing over, you know, the two rocks, you know, from Continuum era, right? That may say, or I have a Strat, I have a two rock, I have a Tube Screamer, I have a Katana, a Blues Driver. You want this tone? Okay, I know the ingredients of that. It's not my everyday tone, but I can get you there.
Right.
And I think when you separate that to understanding the songs and focusing on this piece of artwork as a whole, I think there, combining the two, you become, I don't say deadly, but you become, you know everything about it.
Dangerous.
Yeah, it's like, you know, it's like if you go to a restaurant and you order a meal and let's say you're a cook yourself or an enthusiast, you know all that went into this. You know what kind of meat it is, how they cooked it, you know, reverse sear, whatever, sous vide, you know the sides, how they're made. And you can say, all right, I want to recreate that at home in 2 days. And you can.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
You've mentioned, I want to do something fun, hopefully fun.
Yeah.
Here. You've mentioned songs and your appreciation and respect for the songs. And as someone who, I am by no means an authority on Dead and Company or the Grateful Dead's canon and catalog, but I've always wanted to ask someone this question who is.
Okay.
And so if you could pick, and I guess this would be two songs you would pick. If you could pick a John Mayer song for Dead and Company to cover, which one would it be? And then the two song part is one song that John would sing, and then the other song would be someone else in Dead and Company can sing that song. Your choice, whoever, you know, Bob. O2,
so what John Mayer song would I want Dead and Co? Oh,
to cover. Yes,
probably If I Ever Get Around to Living. Because it has the jam at the end, which is very, very Grateful Dead-esque. And in the past, that has gone, I think, to like Fire in the Mountain. So it could be cool. An extra one, a bonus one, is I told John once, I said, you know, it'd be a great song for you to cover by the Grateful Dead or by Garcia Band, because he's done Friend of the Devil and Deal and Scarlet Begon, and Fire in the Mountain. Is I said to him, you should cover I Shall Be Released by Jerry Garcia Band. And he had a really good reaction, like, oh, that's a great one. And in my head, looking back, I say, that is a great one because it's in the key of G, so in his vocal range. He hasn't done it yet, but maybe one day he does.
and you'll get credit for it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a really great album to cover in general.
Yeah. No. So, all right. So your choice is If I Ever Get Around to Living, and you would want John to sing it with Dead and Company?
Yeah, I think he would do a really good job. I think it would just be a natural progression.
Now, if you had to pick a song for them to cover that he would not sing, that he would only play guitar on, and Bob or Oteil would sing, I guess I'll leave it to those two. Which song would you pick?
Wow. Maybe... Probably another song from Born and Raised. Maybe like... Oh, man. Maybe Born and Raised, title track. Because I would...
That'd be kind of cool.
Because I wouldn't want... I would take If I Ever Get Around to Living, because it can result in a jam. And then I would take maybe Born and Raised, because I know it can result in a very good 5-minute song. I don't think it's too complicated. Bobby won't forget the lyrics.
That's what a prompter's for.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. But
we all need prompters. There's nothing wrong with that.
It's incredible.
Well, okay, those are...
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Tom.
Those are good answers. Those are good answers. I like that. I mean, I could have put like some more strict guardrails on it and been like, what sob rock song or something would be a real left field departure for Dead and Company. But I want to leave it. I want to leave it wide open. And I think you're right. I mean, I think Born and Raised is a good play. The song as well as the record, a good place to go. I highly doubt that they will ever do that. So again, thank you to Gabe Bergman for coming on and recounting what is, in all estimations, an amazing experience from 2019, a tour rehearsal. We should all be so lucky to see any artists we enjoy in that format. Massive thank you to him. Make sure you go follow his socials, Instagram, Gabe_Bergman, YouTube, Gabriel Bergman, and contact him if you want to become a better guitar player, because he's also a guitar teacher. Make sure you stick around. Subscribe to this channel or follow and like and review wherever you consume your podcasts, because we are now available everywhere that you can get podcasts. And until then, this has been Everything Mayer, and I am your host, Tom Butwin. We'll see you in the next one.